So in particular today, we're going to go through 10 vital habits for every young tennis player. So you might be here, you might be looking for some answers. You might, have some questions for us, which we'll be happy to answer at the end of this presentation. Or maybe you just want some help. So you actually need some help and some guidance along the way. Maybe you're afraid your child's missing out. That's quite common. Or maybe you feel like you're getting things wrong and you don't want your child to get injured, or you don't want them to, miss out on opportunities. And we get that. That's why we're here. It's to help you along this journey and to help you understand the right things that need to happen for your child. So let's look at who we are. Okay, so the reason I'm going to take you through this quickly, it's not to sort of big note ourselves. It's purely just to give you an understanding that you're listening to the right people, that we are experts at tennis fitness training and strength and conditioning training. So we've got 25 years of experience just working with tennis players. That's a long time. We've trained 5 world #1 players, many pros, and now our focus is just on junior development. So what do we do? Okay, so at Tennis Fitness, we offer tennis fitness training programs. We support young tennis athletes and their families. That is extremely important. It's not just about the training, it's about having the support and navigating through this tricky tennis environment. We provide an holistic approach. So that means it's not just about hitting tennis balls, and it's not just about doing push-ups or doing sprints, for example. It's about looking at the whole balance and making sure the athlete's happy, the athlete's healthy, and they're in the right environments. So we educate players and parents, very important. We create certainty for players and parents. And what we mean by that is we create an environment where the player knows and the parents know this is what we need to be doing, this is how we do it, and this is the right plan for me. And we also help players improve their results. So you can see from those key areas, results are going to get improved. So why are we here? So we're going to go over 10 vital habits that your child needs to incorporate into their tennis life. Look, some of these things you would have heard of before. Maybe you're not doing them as well as you could, and some things might be totally new to you. So we'll work that out as we go along. I need you to make sure you've got a pen and paper and just to jot down some notes. Some of these areas are going to stand out to you a lot more than others, and they're the ones that you probably need to focus on at the moment. So by the time we finish, I want you to have a better understanding of what it takes to maximize your child's potential. Simple. Okay? Like I said, we've got nothing to sell here today. It's purely just giving you some information, things that you can think about. Now, if you stick around to the end of the presentation, we're going to have a time to answer any questions that you have. And also going to offer you an exclusive gift that's valued at $250. We'll have a chat about that at the end. Just something that we want to add to help you at that next level. Let's get into the learning. All right, so we're going to start off looking at breathwork and gratitude. So breathwork, what we're talking about here, it's more conscious breathing. So obviously your child can breathe, otherwise they wouldn't be here. Breathwork, it's more about teaching them how to breathe a little bit more effectively, especially for their tennis. Most players, when they play, it's a stop-start game. There's a lot of pressure involved, particularly in matches. So the breathing tends to be like that. So what we want to do is we want to teach them in those moments how to breathe more effectively. And we know from science that if we can do that, they're going to be more relaxed. They're going to have more time to concentrate, and it's going to help them stay a lot more stable and in control in the match. So we need to make sure that's going on. Gratitude. So gratitude and appreciation. So, showing gratitude and appreciation for things that are in your life. Could be people, could be situations, it could be a match that was just played. It's important that young players understand the importance of it and they get good at showing gratitude and appreciation. So let's get into some benefits of doing some morning gratitude. So practicing gratitude is going to enhance well-being, fostering sorry, I'm just letting someone in here. Fostering mental resilience and promoting positive emotions in young athletes. So it makes them feel better. When we're appreciative and we show gratitude towards someone, or we think about something in a positive way, it puts us in what we call an upward spiral. It makes us feel better about ourselves, okay? So we're more positive. So we need them to be doing that. I'm going to talk you through in a moment how to make that work. So then we look at breathing. So mindful breathing techniques reduce anxiety, okay? Bolstering concentration. Sorry, just letting someone else in. Bolstering concentration and emotional regulation during their tennis journey. And we recommend starting with box breathing. We're going to go through this in a moment. So the beauty of doing the breath work, it gives them the opportunity to remove themselves from a pressure or a challenging situation on the tennis court and take them to a place where they can do their deep breathing, and then they have a deeper sense of mindfulness. So they go, everything's okay, let's get back in control. And then there's processes that we take players through to even layer that for them to help really strengthen that resilience for them. So let's have a look at some suggested routines. So we want them to engage in 3 minutes of focused box breathing. I'm going to explain to you how that works now. We want them to do that 3 times a week. I want you to watch my finger. So I'm going to draw a box, imaginary box with my finger, and I'm going to count for 4 seconds in. So I'm going to be breathing in. I'm going to move along the top of the box like that. So we breathe in through the nose for 4 seconds. We hold the breath for 4 seconds. We breathe out for 4 seconds. And then we hold the out breath for 4 seconds. And then we just keep repeating that. So it's in, hold, out, hold, in, hold, out, hold. And they just need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're doing that for 3 minutes. That's the starting point. Box breathing is great because the players can have like an imaginary line they're following around the box. It distracts them, so it works more on their mindfulness, which is like pulling everything back in and just focusing on how they're feeling and what's going on, taking the distractions out. So it's a great starting point for their breath work. And then we want to follow that 3 minutes of box breathing up with some gratitude and reflection. So all we want them to do here is just think of one thing that they're grateful for, and do they want to take any action steps on that? So they've done the box breathing, they're thinking about something they're grateful for. It could be, my mum takes me to tennis practice every morning. I'm grateful for that. I want to go and tell her that I appreciate that. Starting very simple, okay? We just got to create the habit, and then we can lay the habits. And that is for all of these 10 points. If it's too complicated, young players won't do it. Hopefully you wrote some notes down there. We're going to move on to point number 2. All right, mastering coordination and skills. So what we're talking about here, it's working on players' their foot movement, their upper body, lower body coordination, and that relates to the connection from their brain to their moving body parts. We want to try to get this in a heightened state. We want to try and get that connection as functional as we can. Now, what we found over the past 5 to 10 years is a lot of players are stopping doing skipping. There's a few things players are missing, and we're going through those today. This is one of them. So players aren't doing enough skipping, and they're not doing enough wall hitting either, which is working on their skills, their hand-eye coordination. We need them to do these things. Okay, so let's have a look at wall hitting. You'll see on the screen there, regular wall hitting enhances stroke consistency, develops hand-eye coordination, and reinforces the fundamental skills of tennis. We'll go over some guidelines for you in a moment. Let's have a look at skipping. So incorporating skipping drills boosts foot speed and rhythmic movement, vital for agility on the court. So you can imagine if the connection from the brain to the moving body parts, it's a lot better. It's moving a lot more functionally. Okay, the athlete's going to feel better. They're going to move better. They're going to see the ball better. They're going to get to the ball better. So there's nothing to lose here. Let's have a look at some suggested routines that Dylan and I have come up with you guys. Once again, we keep it simple. So perform these drills 3 times per week. Okay, and what we want to do, we want to combine wall hitting. So we want to accumulate 10 minutes of wall hitting, and we want to accumulate 5 minutes of skipping. So you can either do the 10 minutes of wall hitting first, then the 5 minutes of skipping. That's the simplest way. But what I probably recommend at the next level up from that is to do a minute of skipping, a couple of minutes of hitting, back to a couple of minutes of skipping. So you're just mixing it up for the athlete. And I would leave that up to them to decide when they change it up. That way they get more buy-in. So it's good to mix up from the wall hitting to the skipping, back into the wall hitting, and you'll see they will start to love it. Now, the skipping, we want to add in lots of variation. So we don't just want them jumping both feet like this. We want them to mix up split steps, side jumps, both feet together, single leg hopping forward and back, single leg hopping side to side, adding in lots of variation, because remember, we're trying to open up those communication corridors with the coordination, and we want to mix it up. The body will get used to doing one thing. We want to challenge it. So that's the skipping. The wall hitting, basically we want to get the players close to a wall, so it has to be a solid wall, not a wall inside a house. It'll be a wall outside that's like made of concrete or brick, and we just want them starting off just volleying, okay, forehands and backhands. Then they can step back a little bit from the wall as well, hit the ball on the wall will bounce, and they'll hit the wall again, like they're playing against somebody else, like typical hitting for them. So there are your options for that. I'm sure that makes sense. We're going to keep moving on. All right, number 3, and I'll probably get Dylan to jump in on this in a moment as well. He can add some information onto this. Strength training and core training. Strength, you'll see on the screen there, strength is king. Okay, so it enhances stability and overall performance, massive for injury reduction. Okay, so injury prevention. This is an area most players miss out on. We get that. The reason most players miss out is because parents, coaches, and to be honest with you, a lot of trainers out there don't know how to get this right for young players. It is the number one most prioritized area that you need to focus on in regards to actual training the young athlete. Okay, and if you can get this right, which we've worked out how to do it, they're going to reduce injuries, and their movement's going to improve just from getting stronger. Their endurance will improve just from getting stronger. Their power will improve just from getting stronger. That's how important it is. I'm not talking about getting them lifting weights at 10 years old. We're getting them doing the right things at the right time. All right. So some recommended exercises would be like incorporating things like squats, lunges, planks, and lots of variations of those things. And then obviously, getting some core exercises in there as well. So we generally encourage people to be doing strength work twice a week for players 10 years and above. And we want to combine in a session lower body, upper body, and some core exercises together. So we're working the whole body in a session. We don't want to do what's called split the program. So they'll just do legs one day and then core another day. We want them to do everything encompassed into one session. It's just a more effective way to train a young athlete. Dylan, did you want to add anything onto that, mate?
Yeah, for sure, mate. You obviously hit the nail on the head, and strength's definitely something that I know we speak about a lot, and it's probably the most common thing we chat about, and it's definitely our bread and butter. You made a good point. Because you're young athletes doesn't mean that strength training involves, getting under heavy bars or lifting a lot of weight. It's more about laying those foundations as an athlete and as a young human being, that if you get it right, it's one of those things that you'll have for the rest of your career and the rest of your life. It's definitely something that definitely can't be undervalued. It's very, very important. But the key thing in and around that too is, and we say it all the time, is it's not about the quantity of what you're doing. It's more about the quality. And if you're getting those 2 sessions a week in and you're doing it really well with good technique, and you're being really mindful of your movement patterns, then it's something that will definitely develop the rest of your game,
100%.
and it'll carry over into the rest of your career, as I said. And I definitely think that if you can do it from a young age and just sort of work on it, then you'll definitely reap the rewards throughout the middle and the end of your careers, and you'll definitely won't be getting as injured as often. And you'll definitely just feel a lot more confident when you're on court, when you're playing, and when you're training. So,
Awesome.
yeah, definitely is very, very important.
Thanks, mate. All right, let's move on. So another big key area, prioritizing sleep and rest. So you might be looking at this and think, yeah, look, my child probably needs to be sleeping more. And, that's vital that you get them into good, healthy sleep habits. I'm going to discuss this really quickly, but hopefully you can take a couple of key points away from what I'm going to say to you now, because this is vital. We need to think your child's body is developing very quickly. And as important as exercise is and doing the right kinds of exercises, it's equally, possibly even more important, depending on the age and stage of your child, that they are having enough sleep and getting enough rest, because that is where we get the growth. The training is the stimulus. It fatigues the body, but they need the rest in order for the body to recover and go through a process that's called overcompensation, and the body just rests, it rejuvenates, it recovers, and it adapts, and it gets stronger, it gets more robust. Sleep and rest are important. So adequate sleep is critical for young athletes physically and mentally. So we look at the mental aspect of it, right? So I'm sure you've all had times where your child hasn't had enough sleep for a couple of nights in a row, and you notice their mood really change. They don't listen as well. They're quite agitated. They don't really want to do anything. It becomes problematic. So imagine if that's even happening on a smaller scale, and you're not really getting enough out of your child, and we're not helping their growth development as effectively as we can. So sleep's important. We'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, I want to go over rest day with you. Okay, incorporating a rest day aids in muscle recovery and prevents overtraining related injuries. Most injuries in tennis, they're overtraining injuries. So the body can't handle the amount of workload that goes through it, and kids get tendinopathy, so tendonitis, problems with their elbows, wrists, knees, ankles. It's generally around the tendons. And having a rest day once a week allows those parts of the body just to rest and rejuvenate. So a lot of players, when Dylan and I look at their weekly schedule and what they've got going on, we go, hey, there's no rest day here. And the parents will be, oh, yeah, but the Sunday is only, they're only hitting for 2 hours. They're still hitting for 2 hours, so the body's not getting enough rest. Let's have a look at some suggested routines with this. So we want to aim for 8 to 10 hours, optimally getting as close to 10 as you can. And we also need to look at the quality of the sleep. So if your child's on a screen for 2 hours before they go to bed, you can imagine what's going on in their brain, that they're highly stimulated, okay? And it's going to take them a while to get to sleep. It's going to take them a while to get into a deep sleep, which is where we get that full recovery process working at its optimal. So definitely try to avoid getting them having any screens. Try not to get them to eat for a couple of hours before they get into bed as well, because their body's breaking down the food, so they're burning energy to create the energy, and it's going to put them in a heightened state. So there's a couple of key points for you. You want them to have good, consistent sleep patterns. So try to keep it the same time every night, the same time they wake up, and the quality has to be good. So let's have a quick look at rest day. So we want to aim for roughly 36 hours a week. To say hypothetically, your child hit at 4 p.m. On a Wednesday, and they had all Thursday off, and then they didn't hit again until the Friday. So they've got a good chunk of time off there. Now, sometimes in the rare instances, Dylan and I will recommend, if people have a very busy schedule because the kids are playing multiple sports, they might do tennis, say, in the morning on the Thursday, and then they might do tennis on, say on the Thursday, they'll do it in the morning, and they might do tennis again on Friday in the afternoon, and they've got that 36-hour window of opportunity there to rest. Not ideal, but that can work as well. So make sure you prioritize this, all right? This is huge for your child's development. You don't get this right, you're definitely going to be having them sitting down where they can be. All right, hydration for peak performance. So look, we're just going to skim over this because I'm going to keep it really brief for you, all right? So hydration, very important. Once again, it helps players with their concentration, helps reduce the risk of injury, helps them just feel like they've got more energy. They don't know it. And this is a problem I've had with my son. My son just turned 15 and we've had issues with this with him. You know, boys are generally not as great with this as female athletes, because females generally just get it and go, yeah, I understand. I need to drink water and I know why. It's a matter of just educating the athlete, because you can't be with them all the time. You can't be with them on the court. You can't be with them at school. So you just got to keep educating them. A couple of key messages I need you to take back to them. If they want to have better concentration and focus on the tennis court, they need to be keeping themselves hydrated. Okay? If they want to reduce the risk of injuries, they need to be keeping themselves hydrated. If they want their energy to be higher, they need to be keeping themselves hydrated. Simple. So they're the things that you need to take back to them. Now, a couple of key points on hydration. If your child wakes up to play a match on a Saturday and you say you've got to start drinking water to get yourself hydrated, if they're already in a semi-dehydrated state, it's probably too late. Okay, it can take up to 24 hours to get an athlete back into a really well-hydrated state. So it has to be an ongoing daily habit that they create, all right? If a player's in a match and they're dehydrated or semi-dehydrated and they start to cramp, it's not going to matter what they take, what they drink in that moment. It's not really going to help. It's too late. Okay, so it has to start at least 24 hours before. What we recommend is sipping on water every 20 to 30 minutes, okay, throughout the day. That is the optimal way to do it. Okay, so when I say sipping, they wouldn't be having more than like 100 mils at a time. That allows the body to take the fluid in, to absorb it, to disperse it, and absorb it on a cellular level. So let's have a look now at how much water we recommend over the course of the day. And this is just a guide that players should be having. So we want to roughly look at 2 to 3 litres per day. And when we're looking at getting it down and sort of quantifying a little bit more, let's look at how we do that. So we've got, you'll see here down at suggested routine, we've got body weight in kilograms. So if you're in the US, you'd need to work it out into kilograms. So body weight in kilograms, and you times it by 0.03. Okay, so effectively, if you're 100 kilos, which no, I don't think any of your kids are going to be 100 kilos, but just as an example, if someone was 100 kilos, we times that by 0.03, it's going to be 3 litres. Most kids are probably going to be under the 2 litres, but we just say, look, just aim for 2 litres a day. Now, that's just the baseline. That's if they're not doing any exercise. On top of that, we need to think for every hour of exercise, we want to add 300 to 500 mils of water in. Okay, so that's what they'll be drinking during a match, before a match, after a match. Okay, for every hour of exercise, we want to aim that. The variance between 300 to 500 depends on how hot it is, how much your child sweats, or how hard the match was, all those sorts of things. So 500, would be up at that maximum range if it's really hot and they've been sweating a lot. 300 is more if it's a bit milder weather and the match was quite easy. So I'll leave you guys with that to work that out. And last thing I'll say is not all fluid is the same. Okay, regarding sports drinks, I'll see kids walking around at 8 o'clock in the morning sipping on sports drinks before they play. That's useless. It's not going to do anything for them besides just put some extra sugar into their body. Only having sports drinks after 45 minutes to an hour is ideal. We recommend they start having it then, 45 minutes to an hour, mixing it up with water. So have a sip of sports drink, have a sip of water, and, that's what we recommend, because then they're getting some glucose into their body, and they're going to use that for energy. And most sports drinks have some minerals in them as well, which they lose when they sweat. Anything outside of that, though, keep your kids away from any canned soft drinks, sports drinks, caffeinated drinks, anything that's basically aside from water and coconut water. We recommend that you just steer them away from it as much as you can. Coconut water is great to have, particularly during matches. It's got lots of trace minerals in, which they lose through sweating. So I could talk about this for a long time, but we've got to move on so you can get an idea about everything else. Okay, learning through observation. Now, Dylan, I might let you take control of this one, mate.
Yeah, sure. So, learning through observations, we definitely think that, as a whole, that a lot of junior players probably don't analyze and, use this as effectively as they can. So, analyzing top players' techniques and attitude fosters skill elevation, motivating young athletes to be better. So, with this, I think, we all have access to something called the internet. And by that, we can all easily go online, watch your favorite players, watch live tournaments around the world. Obviously, I know that the time zones don't always make it ideal, but usually there are replays. So just simple things as going online, watching certain players, what they do well, what they don't do well. Something as big as also watching stuff like their body language, what they're doing in between points, how they're bouncing around, certain mannerisms in between points and in between sets when they're changing ends, or their sort of inner self-talk and what they're trying to do to either get themselves out of a rut, or their processes in between points. All these things are so important. And obviously these guys are at the highest level in their sport, so a lot of junior players aren't obviously going to be there yet, but I guess that's what you're inspiring to, and that's what you want to hopefully be one day. So the more you can watch your heroes and just the best players in the world at this point in time, men and women, I think it's important to get a bit of to differentiate both, because every player is different and everyone has their own processes and techniques on how they deal with stuff. So you can see there we've got our best practice. So I encourage young players to analyze professional matches. What I was just saying, this helps analyze their understanding of their own game. So we see a lot too, that by watching others, and even I know from my own personal experience, by watching others, it's also given me an opportunity to step back and look at the game in a bit of a different way and just get a little bit of perspective on different players, because as athletes and as human beings, nobody's perfect and we can always get better at different things. And I think that's really important for young players to understand too. We're never going to be perfect in this life, or especially in sport. So any little things we can pick up from different athletes or anything like that, I think it definitely can go a long way. And at the end of the day, it's just going to make you a better player. If you can take something that they've done well and incorporate it into your own game, it's only going to help you in the long run. And then down the bottom there, we've got our suggested routine. So watching tennis players, their match replays or live, like I was saying at the start, at least once a week for 30 minutes plus. So if you can take the time to just even for half an hour, you can also use as a bit of a bonding thing with yourself and your parents. If you sit down together and you're watching it together, it's something you can talk about. It's something that you can have a bit of a conversation about. And it also, gets other people involved and get their opinion. And at the end of the day, the parents are just as important in your journey, in your process as the player, because they're the ones, giving you the opportunity and taking you to training and paying for all your coaching and all your lessons. So the more you can get, as a family and as a unit, and get that sort of team camaraderie and that culture feel about it, it makes you feel too that you're not in it alone, because obviously tennis is an individual sport. So the more we can sort of get a bit more support, then I think that will go a long way as well. So definitely a really important one.
Thanks, Dill. I'll just add one more thing in here very quickly. So when Nick Kyrgios was at the heights of his powers as a tennis player, well, actually more early on in his career, we started seeing a lot of young players come to tennis practice and trying to play a little bit more flashy. Attitudes were changing. There was a little bit more disrespect. And look, I think Nick's a fantastic player. He's obviously one of the most skillful players that's ever played. But is he the best professional? No. Does he handle himself the best on court all the time? No. And I'm sure he would probably agree with that there's times he's like, kids, don't do what I do. Do more like what Rafa does. But he is who he is. But because of his gravity and how much kids are drawn to him, it did have an effect on what we were seeing and what was coming through. That is the power of getting young athletes to watch the people that they look up to. So that's why you need to do it. But you need to make sure they're watching the right people and they're picking up the right information that they can apply into their own journey. All right, sure, that makes sense. Number 7, body management. Body management here, what we're talking about, it's looking after their body. So it's not just about the training, it's also about the recovery. So we talk about a couple of key areas with body management. So it's about preparing for the next session. That's very important to get young athletes to understand. It's not so much recovery, it's more preparation for what's coming. So we talk about 2 key areas, mobility and flexibility. So integrating regular mobility and flexibility exercises increases muscle length, so lengthening the muscle, and joint health. So mobility is more around just think you're moving multiple joints through your body. Okay, so you're rotating, swinging your arm, where flexibility, it's more about just holding a stretch and trying to elongate and lengthen the muscle out. All right, so they're both as important as each other. Okay, reducing injuries and enhancing agility for players, the benefits we're going to get from it. So some stretches, and just to give you an idea, I'm sure most of you watching this know what stretches are. So some mobility is, which remember that's more the movement-based form of body management. So we've got things like overhead squat. So that's like squatting down, keeping your arms up in the air, swinging the arms through. We've got trunk rotation, so rotating the torso. Very basic ones, just to give you an example. We want to aim to do 5 to 10 of those. You do too many, the players will disengage. You want to keep it at like 5 to 10 minutes, and mobility is more what we do pre-exercise or first thing in the morning, okay? So imagine in the morning, your athlete's woken up, they've gone through, they've done some mobility, they've got their body moving, the blood's flowing through the body, okay? Then they go through and do their 3 minutes of breathing, then they do their gratitude, bang, they're going to be in a great state to get out into the world and be feeling really good about themselves. Flexibility, okay, we do this after exercise. So mobility is more preparing the body for what they're about to do and for the day, and flexibility is more about just trying to lengthen and hold the muscle out in preparation for next time, their next session. So we've got stretches like, holding a hamstring stretch or a calf stretch, so stretching out through the bottom part of our legs. Same thing, start out with 5 to 10 specific stretches. Don't give them more than that. We want to just create the routine and make them feel like, hey, this is pretty easy and it only takes me 10 minutes to get through. I enjoy it. And we layer those two things. We can always add more in later once the habit's created. I'm sure you understand that. So we want to aim for mobility exercises in our suggested routines 3 to 5 times a week in the mornings, and flexibility 3 to 5 times weekly in the evening. Create the habits, okay? Keep it simple. Just repeat the consistency. We get the gains. All right. Number 8, reflective journaling. Okay, so this relates to getting your child to start to think a little bit broader. Start to analyze their matches. What am I doing at practice? What can I do better at practice? It's so invaluable and it costs you nothing to do. Is every player going to do it? No, but we want to encourage them. We want them to have a go at it. We generally find female athletes gravitate towards this a little bit more. They enjoy writing and thinking a little bit more. Boys will keep it more simple, which is totally fine as well. What we want to do, get them to think about what they've just done or what they're about to do, and then it opens conversations up for coaches and parents to have with the player. So they're not putting anything personal in. This is a tennis journal. They're not putting in like a boy or girl that they like at school or anything like that. It's more just tennis related. So the benefits are written in there: self-analysis, encouraging players to identify strengths and areas for improvement. Bang, that's what we want to get out of it. Okay, the process enhances awareness of emotions and thoughts, and it guides players towards conscious growth in their game. Sort of touched on that as well. Let's have a look at how you can make this work. So practice. Get a notepad, get a pen. We've created our own digital journals that we get our players to use that are in our system, and they love it. It's very easy. They just touch the screen, drop down, and they just fill it out, and it's quite thorough. So 1 to 2 times a week for practice. We don't want them doing it all the time for practice. They won't do it even once a week. Their main sort of practice session could be a private lesson with a coach. Get them pre-lesson, what the coach wants them to focus on, write it down, put the date on the top, write down what they want to focus on, and then after the session, how did I go? They can scale themselves from a 1 to 10, 10 being perfect, 1 being like not good at all. And then they can write down a couple of notes, something that they can take to their coach and share with the coach about the practice. After every match, want it done after every match, ideally. Okay, same thing, date, opponent, court surface, how they felt, what were their objectives for the match, and how did they go after the match. Most coaches aren't going to go and watch junior players play their matches. So it's something that the player can take back to the coach. The player thinks more, the coach is more engaged, everyone's a winner. All right, so make sure you get your young player doing that. Very valuable. Let's move it on to point number 9, endurance. Okay, so what we're talking about here with endurance, it's cardiovascular system. Okay, so the heart, getting the heart a little bit stronger, getting it working a bit more efficiently, getting them feeling like they're fitter. One thing that's really dropped down in the last 10 years with young players around the world, not doing enough endurance training. So this relates to their ability to be able to hang in there in the third set without going and dropping right off. Players will start finding excuses. They'll start saying they don't feel well, their opponent's cheating, why is it so windy, all these things, because the energy's gone. When the energy's up and they're doing their breathing and they're feeling good because they're hydrated and they're fit, those excuses won't be there. Hence why we want you to stick to these points. This is a big part of it, building up their stamina. Okay, it's important for lengthy matches and also to get as much as they can out of their practice sessions. So let's have a look at some suggested workouts. So incorporate workouts like LSD, which is long, slow distance running. So it could be like a 20-minute run to start with. As long as they keep running at the start, that's fine. You want to encourage them to do that 20 minutes as fast as they can. All right, that's long, slow distance. Then we've got things like interval sprints. So they might run for like 200 meters, and then they might go for a slow jog. All right, and they might just repeat that for 20 minutes. And the slow jog would be like really slow. That's just an example. And we've got things like circuit training, which is getting them to do one drill, have a quick rest, like be an active rest like a walk, and then move into another. So it goes long, slow distance, and that progresses more into the interval, and the interval more then moves into circuit training, which is what we call periodized training. It's what we do with all our athletes in the systems that we use. And yeah, this just helps them. It's training the energy systems. That's what we're doing here. So as I've written down there, suggested routine, aim for at least one endurance-based session per week, and we want it to be between 40 to 60 minutes. This is on top. It's got nothing to do with tennis practice. This needs to be on top and away from that. All right, last one, we've got proper nutrition, and we're going to talk about the 80-20 rule here. All right, the 80-20 rule, what is that? So in a nutshell, to explain it really simply, 80% of the time, we want your child eating fresh, natural, unprocessed foods, okay? Fresh, natural, unprocessed foods. So avoiding packet foods, avoiding anything that's high in sugar, because that's processed. And the reason we want them to do this, it's just much better for their bodies. Okay, kids are having way too much sugar generally in their diets, and they're having a lot of saturated fat, like at tournaments, like things like hot chips and packet chips and those sorts of things. Most tournaments don't really get it right. They're just selling food. It's not great for the athletes when it's hot and they're playing a few matches in a day. Not good for them. So you need to be prepared and plan what you're taking, particularly to tournaments. I know sometimes you travel and you're staying in a hotel, but be organised before you go. I'm staying here. Where's the closest supermarket? We need to get there early to the check-in so I can get to the supermarket or pack the food with you. We need to get some fruit. We need to get some vegetables. We need to get some good whole grains. And we need to make them, things like for breakfast, they can have some eggs on wholemeal toast with some avocado, glass of milk. They can have for lunch like some chicken and salad wraps. And then they can snack on some fruit, some cut up vegetables with some hummus or some cheese. And then for dinner, they're going to have something like protein, so like some steak or some chicken. Or, if you're vegetarian, you can have like some beans or some kind of vegetable patty. And you want to mix that with some rice and some vegetables. All right, that would be like an ideal sort of a day for an athlete. That's what you should all be aiming for. We're basically ticking off that 80%. 20% of the time, they're eating like a slightly like processed wrap. But where you'll see there, we haven't got anything in there that's like, coming out of a package, so to speak. So that's where we're at with the food. That's what we recommend. Like you'll see down in the suggested routine, fruits, vegetables, whole grains. So like whole grains, like things like brown rice. If you are going to have pasta, just try to have more like spelt or wholemeal pasta and lean protein. Very important, avoiding processed foods, saturated fats and refined sugar. All right, guys. So that's it for our learning. Make sure you start implementing these habits. Hopefully you've got a couple of key points out of this that you can take back to your children and start using, and they'll thank you for it. So there's thousands of people in a similar situation to you. I can guarantee you, Dylan and I and our team, we're speaking to lots of people every day, emails and phone calls. Lots of people are in the same position. They're not sure exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it. That's why we're here. So if you haven't subscribed to our to Tennis Fitness, make sure you do that. If you haven't got any of our online programs, that's a good place to start. And if you need answers, you need some structure, and you want to give your child the best opportunity you can, then we get that, and we want to help you out. So myself and my team, that's why we're here. And like I said, we're not selling anything here. It's just purely giving you an opportunity to get some more help at a deeper level. So here's how we can help. If you're willing to share with us what you need help with, if you're willing to listen to the advice that we give you, you can just listen to what we give you, guarantee you'll get results. If you're willing to change some things you're currently doing, that has to happen. If you listen to us and you're willing to change, we'll get your results. If you're willing to invest in your child's tennis career, so you need to invest time, and there has to be like financial commitment as well. That just has to happen. Tennis isn't a cheap sport, and there's a lot of time involved. You need to be prepared for that. Here's how we can help. We want to book you in for a free strategy call with us. And during your time with us, we'll help you solve the biggest problem related to your child's tennis journey, give you clear advice on what you need to do to support your child, and give you some confidence moving forward. Simple. 3 steps, bang, you'll be leaving that phone call going, right, I know what I've got to do now. So if that's you, all you need to do is just book that in as soon as you can. You can do it now, or you can do it once we finish this meeting, and we'll jump on that call with you soon and get you going.